Hi and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about Microsoft Excel and named ranges, and in particular how useful they can be in creating formulas using these named ranges to make it easier to read and digest. If you find this video useful, please do click on the like button, hit subscribe and tap that bell. It means a lot to the channel. And with all that said, let's jump on over to Microsoft Excel. Okay, so in this example here, I have just created a little mini table with 5 sample products, some sales, and then the cost of the sales just there. And what we're going to do is just work out the profit and the profit percentage based on these particular values. And if we also wanted to, we can create a total at the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these areas to create formulas based on these becoming named ranges. So a named range is really useful for a couple of reasons. One, it becomes a little bit easier to actually explain something to somebody when they can actually just type out the exact named range. Also, it helps with navigation and navigating around your documents because they allow you to jump straight to a specific area of your document straight away. But fundamentally, it just makes formulas easier to read. Okay, so what we're going to do first is actually name these two ranges here, what they are, right? So I can highlight these particular sales numbers. I'm going to first of all just convert them into a currency, and then over here, or next to the formula bar, you'll see the B2 icon here. This box is the name box. This is the area of Excel that actually lets you click in here and type a name for the particular selected cells. So before I do that, if I just select one cell, I can name that one cell something, but that's not what we want to do when it comes to named ranges. Instead, we want to select all of the data in the range and then we want to name it. So I'm going to call this sales. Now, when you type something in here, you have to, first of all, note that you cannot use a space and you can't use numbers. You only can use letters as far as I understand it. So a lot of people tend to type something in like sales and then use an underscore as a space. But I'm just going to use sales in this example. Okay, and then I can press enter. Now, if I come and select this again, you can notice it has basically identified that as sales. From this drop down menu here, I can click on sales and it will jump straight over to that particular area. If I come to this drop down menu again, you can see I have some other tables, right? If I go to sales data, it's going to take me straight over to that particular range in my document. And that's the quick navigation part of ranges. They're really useful for just getting around your tabs really quickly and efficiently. So a good example of that would be is if you have like 100 tabs on your Excel document, you could name a tab within each range, right? Your A1 could be a name of a tab if you really wanted to, and then you could just use this to navigate straight to it. Not the best use of named ranges, but definitely one that would work. Okay, so now we have the first named range of sales. Next, we're going to highlight our cost of sales. We're going to change that to a currency. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type COGS, and that being the cost of goods sold abbreviation. And I'm going to press return, and now I have a sales and a COGS, and I can just check this by doing that. Okay, now we can start using those ranges in formulas. So at the bottom here, I can go equals sum, open up a bracket, and then I can start typing that range out. I can go sales, and you can start to see that Excel has already identified that I have 3 different data sets in this document called sales. The first one with the particular icon next to it is a range, okay, what we've named. And then under here, these 2 icons indicate Excel tables within the document. Okay, so we know that we've actually called it sales and it's a range, so I can just actually click on that and pull in sales. I can now close my bracket and press return. I can then obviously just format this as a currency and I can see that now my sum value here is easy to read. I am summing my sales, right? It's not a range like B2 to B6, although you get the same result. Instead, when you're reading back your formula, you can say, okay, I am summarizing sales. Now I can copy this to the right hand side, and you'll notice that I am still summarizing sales. It's not summarizing the cost of goods. So I now have to change this from sales to become COGS. And you can see how it highlights just there. I can double click that, press return, and now my cost of goods have been summarized at the bottom using COGS, and my sales have been summarized using sales. Okay, so you cannot copy these across, which is also actually a pretty useful feature. So sometimes you might think that actually, you want to be able to auto-fill across, and on certain circumstances that's perfectly fine to do. However, if there's a formula you want to make sure doesn't get altered in any way, name the range. If you name that range, it's even harder to go wrong. Okay, so that's summing the entire range. What about if we wanted to calculate the profit generated at the line level using those names? Again, Excel's smart enough to know how we're going to be using those names ranges, so it works out that you're not doing the entire range, you're just using parts of the range. Okay, so in order to do this, I'm just going to equals COGS minus sales. Okay, and then I can just close that off, and there we go. Okay. Although, to be fair, I did that the wrong way around, so I can delete that out and actually go equals sales minus COGS, and there we go. It's basically now filled that down for me. I have all of the profit generated here. Okay, and then again, what I can do is highlight this, change this to a currency. So what I can do now is just at the bottom here, type equals sum, and I can sum that particular range of values there, which comes up as a D2 hash. Now, the reason for that is this, you see it as a little blue box around this particular area here, and that is because we've used our sales minus COGS ranges. Excel has calculated out everything by row for us automatically. We didn't have to pull any formulas down, and in doing so, I've had to use a named range that was pre-created by Excel. So this range here is actually called D2 hash, and that indicates that Excel has expanded the formula to include all records within those particular ranges. Okay, so another example, if I come over to this particular area here where I want to use the profit percentage. The profit percentage is a simple D2 divide by our cost of sales, our sales themselves, right? So in order to do this, I change that to sales, and I can just add in a D2 hash to expand this range, right? So now D2 hash, so my profit range, divide by my sales range. I press return on there. We can see now that this is expanded all the way down, and I can just come over here and turn that into a percent. Now, obviously, down at the bottom here, I would like to average out my percentages. You wouldn't use a sum in this case. So I'm just going to go equals average, open up a bracket, highlight this particular range, which is an E2 hash, and close that off, press return, and there we go. So now, with these named ranges, we can see quite clearly, just by looking at the formulas, what they are doing, right? So, for example, if you are working collaboratively and you have a lot of people looking at documents, sometimes it's hard to follow some formulas. So sometimes it's a little bit easier to actually type out what you're actually doing, calling it a range of cells a specific name. In this case, we called our sales, our cost of sales, COGS, so that when someone goes over to the profit tab or profit sales here, and they're questioning whether or not that's actually the correct formula, they can go in and say, okay, well, it's sales minus COGS. That is correct. or as the first time round when I actually wrote this, I put cogs minus sales, then obviously they can go here and just say where you've got cogs minus sales, that is clearly wrong, right? It's really easy to see without actually having to then understand which cells we're referring to. Okay, so if you've got a really large data set with each column being a certain name, I would probably actually lean more towards converting it into an Excel table, such as this one over here, because these are basically defined within their headers. So I have sales and I have months directly here, and I can basically pull those in. So for example, if I go and say equals sales, right, you can see how I have these sales tables. This one's called sales table, so I can double click that. I can then open up a bracket here and actually pull in the very specifics from that table. So because this one is called sales, we can see this is also called sales. I can click that. I can then just press return. Sorry, I have to close off the bracket. I thought it would do that for me. It hasn't. So I can now press return, and I've pulled back all of the sales inside that table straight away, just using the names rather than actually having to reference the table itself, right, by going to the specific cell. So this is an incredibly powerful function, and obviously you can use this this methodology with other formulas and functions to basically generate yourself results really quickly and efficiently using Microsoft Excel. Hopefully you guys found this useful. I know I kind of maybe went off on a few different tangents as I tried to explain some of the benefits and functions of named ranges, but it really does depend, I guess, on what kind of data that you have and what you're trying to actually achieve. Sometimes actually converting things into a Excel table and then using the named ranges of the table is actually more efficient than typing in new names for specific cell references, but both ways have and work the same way. They drive out the same results. But if you found this useful, please do click on the like button, hit subscribe and tap that bell. It means a lot to the channel, and with that said, I will catch you guys in the next video.